Now, detonate the reality bomb!
I will build a great, great wall.
Some alien race to come down and threaten us.
Is the singularity near?
The truth is out there.
The military-industrial complex.
The 7 mountains of the influencers of culture.
To be as gods, you know.
Change has come to America.
Catapult of propaganda.
From a secure location on top of the ridge in the heart of the beautiful Missouri Ozarks, this is A View from the Bunker. Now, here's Derek Gilbert.
Welcome to A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert. Our guest today is a favorite of us here at Skywatch TV, a favorite of us here at A View from the Bunker, because we've gotten to be friends over the last year and a half or thereabouts. And he is a gentleman who's got a very unique delivery, produces a lot of video content you can find on YouTube. He's also got them available in DVD format. And it's almost at times comes across as stream of consciousness. And yet when you get to the end, you realize that there was a thread all the way through it, and the presentation is not like, well, anything else that's out there. And I think that is a good thing. He's got a new DVD, a new video out. It is The God Dimension, and we are honored to welcome back to A View from the Bunker, Trey-Smith. Trey, welcome.
Derek, it's an honor to sit with you. And I'm here today with my mom.
Hi, Ruth.
That's actually, she, which is really, to me, the biggest honor of all of it is to be able to, this thing took a few months to make. And so today I'm hanging loose with Mom, and that's, and I'm going to make sure she has a good time today.
Well, that's a good thing. I try to get out and see my mom once, at least once a week. She's up in Marionville, which is not far from where we're at here. So we get a chance to see each other on a weekly basis. I get to, vacuum her floors and stuff. My back's younger than hers is, so I guess that's fair.
Derek, isn't that's such a neat thing though? Because, and I'm glad you talk about that sometimes when we get together. You talk about your mom. If there was one thing in the making of this movie, Derek, this thing actually changed me. In fact, Mom over there can attest to that because she comes in and out and she yells at me for things, and she
that's what moms do.
Well, and I love, I would miss it so much, and that's what I would and I began to really
but it's because of their the goals that they set in front of us, and their encouragement and sometimes their chastisement that we actually make anything of ourselves in this life.
They love you so much that you just I'll tell you
that's why I dedicated my last book to my mom. You'll notice that.
Are you kidding? I'm sitting.
This one's dedicated to my dad.
I'm holding a copy of The Day the Earth Stands Still. And by the way, these look hot as can be.
Jeffrey Martis is our secret weapon. He is the artist who does the covers for Defender Publishing. That one and this cover here for Unraveling the Multiverse, the great Inception covers, all of the great covers from Defender Publishing over the last year and a half. Jeffrey's done amazing. But you've got almost a signature style in your videos.
These are nice. I don't mean to cut in on Derek. But these books are nice, and people need to subscribe. In fact, my mother reads, and she will attest to this. She loves the Skywatch, and she does. She reads Sharon's, but she'll be in there and she puts tabs and things in them. She loves this stuff, and you're right. They do. These look. I tell you, the people, I don't know where they do books anymore, where the important people are supposed to be in New York, but they would be jealous of these.
Now, we've told Jeffrey multiple times that his covers look as good as anything on the shelf at Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, or whatever.
They look better. This stuff, it looks better. I love this thing that you did here with Josh Peck, that you both did. This thing is beautiful. I've got one of these, and I'm going to read it.
It's a little different take on the UFO phenomenon. So, but we want to talk about your stuff here and what you've been doing, because I'll say again, your style is really unique and different. I mean, we're talking before we recorded here about Skywatch TV, and we're on some national networks and stuff, and we're adding a few. But a lot of the programming on these Christian television networks follow a very similar format, where you've got a guy at a podium or a woman at a podium or on a stage, and they're standing up in front, and they're preaching and teaching, and sometimes with a lot of volume, sometimes a little less volume, but it's basically the same sort of format. Skywatch TV is a little different. We're more like our friends at Prophecy Watchers, where you get a couple people, you sit and you interview, and but your presentation is often now. Of course, your Holy Land video is a little different, where you were out in Israel, but this kind of brings you back into the your home studio. It's basically you in front of a monitor, commenting on things.
That's really what it is, actually.
But it's so different from that standard, preacher in front of the audience shouting, can I get a witness? Which, okay, there's a place for that. I don't deny that. I don't begrudge that. And boy, I wish I could do that for more than 15 minutes without losing my voice. But your style, I think, appeals to a lot of people who are turned off by that. And frankly, if the whole world were in love with that style of preaching, or preaching period, there wouldn't be a need for, people to preach to folks who aren't already in the choir. And so that's why we really appreciate what you're doing.
So some of that, I'll tell you this, Derek, and yeah, no, it's a neat thing, and you're going to go through the letters, and I'm a weird dude. I thought I was just a weird dude in front of it, but people looked at it, and I don't know. My mother says that I am. And you know what? And there's a weird dude. What's he doing? But I'll tell you, this thing was just uplifting. And speaking of those guys and those podiums, at night, sometimes I'll listen to some of these guys, because that's what I came from, is her mom's dad was an Assemblies of God pastor. He would preach to the point his voice would go out. And he had to stop for a year one time because the voice had gone out.
When you got nodes, you can't do anything with it. You just let it rest and heal up.
Derek, in fact, the other night I was sitting and I was listening. She had put some of these old sermons on disc, and kind of what this was, and also things that you and Sharon, especially here, Scott and Josh, go through, or have been kind of tracking this trail of darkness and where it came from, proving that God is real. In the midst of that, man, this was just to lift people up. And every day I would on the days that the recording stuff went well, I would have gone before the Lord, and there were points I'd get to maybe noon or late in the day, and I'd say, I just have to go, but because I would look at the screen, I would say, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be stating. Or you might know what you're supposed to say, but you can't get it to come out right, or it comes out jumbled.
For me, that happens in the writing process. So right now I'm in the middle of writing the next book, and I'm trying to boil down a lot of scholarly research on the ancient Mesopotamian rituals for their dead ancestors.
You've talked about this for some time. Actually, it's a powerful. Derek, there's probably nobody. One of the things that I've really enjoyed about the friendship with you is that of people that are speakers, and there's a lot of great guys, but you really. These details fascinate you about the like the back of your hand. These sites about Jericho, the gods' names, and who the gods' kids were.
I just need to put more charts in the next book, so I've been told. But your work on this one, the God Dimension, the new DVD, you got a slug line on top here. The future is written in advance, all of it. How do you explore that theme in the God Dimension?
Okay, so what you're looking at on the cover there is this says Yod He Vav He. So this is the name of God.
The Tetragrammaton. Yeah.
Yes, and and that Vav right there is big because we're gonna. We focus a lot in the video on that. That's the number for man.
Right.
6. That's also the number for the Vav is the symbol for the pegs, the silver pegs that held the tabernacle in place, God's habitation on earth, and also the nails in Jesus's hands and one in the feet. So there would have been 3 Vav, 666. Now, the rabbis, one of the things, here's a neat thing, Derek, that we'll do right here on this show that's kind of neat. So what the rabbis believe, and we're looking at a big vav here. A vav, each letter in the Hebrew alphabet represents a number. So they're pictographic letters that you're looking at. So they have they're little pictures, and they kind of tell their own little stories. Now, the vav is the sixth letter, and it represents the number 6, or the number of man. So that's what it represents. Now, what the rabbis believe is that that letter connects heaven to earth. They believe that because of the tabernacle, because this was used for the pegs to hold God's habitation on earth. But what the rabbis also believe is that the first time a letter's used in the Torah, that it should give you some idea of what that letter means, what it is, what its function is. Well, in Genesis, that first sentence of Genesis, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And that's the most quoted sentence in all of human literature. That's what that is. That vav, if you count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you get to the sixth word, the first time the vav is used in the Torah is on the start of the 6th word in. And guess what that 6th word is? Well, that's the word we've been translating as and the. That's literally the and the, connecting heaven, shamayim, and the earth, is what that vav is. And so one of the things that I began to learn in doing, it just became such a fun thing where I would get to a point where you're saying to yourself, you don't know what to put in because there's so much cool stuff. What do I choose? Right. To put in there, because the more you look at those letters and that language, not in any other book, and as much as I love Derek's books, you're not going to find the same effect on any other book on earth.
Would not presume to say so. No,
as you're going to find in that Torah. So it has its surface level meaning, and it literally means what it says in those texts. Well, literally, but it has deeper meanings within the text. Each letter of that Hebrew alphabet, each little letter guy, and there are 22 of them, each one of them points to the Messiah, some more than others. But they all are pointing, they're all pointing to Jesus, all of them, every letter. From the Aleph, the first letter, which is in 3 parts, the Aleph, it starts everything, but it's the silent letter, all the way to the Tav, which is, it's the last letter, and it's a cross. The Tav, the last letter of that alphabet is a cross. I don't even know how the Jews possibly don't know Jesus is the Messiah. Yeah, I mean, you've got to ignore an awful lot of stuff.
It's difficult. It's if we're looking at it from our perspective, and that's one reason a gentleman who's become a good friend of ours over the past year, Rabbi Zev Parat, who was raised in a family of ultra-Orthodox rabbis. In fact, the little village in which he was raised is all rabbis. Grandfather, member of the reconstituted Sanhedrin. Although he will tell you that they didn't really reconstitute the Sanhedrin. There's always been a Sanhedrin, he says. He's got a perspective that we don't share because, we were always raised in a Christian culture, raised, attending church as you were hearing pastors, preachers. So for us, it's just a whole worldview thing. It's hard for us to comprehend how difficult it would have been for the Jews then or now to say, yeah, everything that we've been taught is there's been stuff that we've not been taught, or what we have been taught doesn't align with the evidence. It's really difficult to make that kind of a stretch. The closest I can come to it is some friends we had in St. Louis who were out of the Amish community in northeast Missouri, up around Hannibal, not quite Hannibal, but up that direction. And the grandfather of this family had gotten hurt working out in the fields one day, and so he was laid up for a few weeks in bed, couldn't get out, couldn't work, so all he had to read was his Bible. And when he started reading the Bible and he saw, hey, all of these rules that we're living under aren't in here, so now I have to make a decision. But getting to that point where you're actually reading the evidence and taking it at face value and setting aside tradition. Mm-hmm. You know, and you can almost hear.
That's interesting, Derek.
You can almost hear. You know, was it Zero Mostel in the movie version of Fiddler on the Roof? You know, singing tradition. And not to make light of it, but it's really difficult to turn your back on not just what you've been taught, but because by extension, everyone else around you who looks at your decision and thinks you're rejecting them and saying, without saying so, what you believe is wrong and you're stupid, even though that's not what you're saying. But that's so this family wound up in St. Louis because they had been shunned. Friends, family members, they basically banished from the community, more or less. And I would imagine that for a lot of Jews, you know, who's going to be the first one to cross that line? It had to be an act of incredible bravery for Peter, James, John, Andrew, Nathaniel, you know, the first apostles to say, yeah, this is the guy. Because that's not what the rabbis were teaching them. It's not what the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the Sanhedrin were teaching them. So
it was not. Those were the guys that put Jesus on the cross.
Yeah. But to look at the Torah though, and to come out with this, as you say, you know, admittedly it's all in there, but you know, without having that. By the time Jesus arrived on the scene, they already had 1,500 years of tradition behind their Torah and filtering the Word of God for them in the same way that some denominations will try to filter the Word of God for people in the pews on Sunday morning.
Well, we you know, Derek, from my perspective, I just love them. And
yeah, amen.
And who, I mean, you know what it is? It's just an encouraging thing. And I had thought of, particularly with this one, here's a story that's kind of a neat one. So I didn't really have a title for it. I was a little actually nervous about titling it this because that's to the Jews, it's the unspeakable name of God right there.
Right.
And but it just popped in my head. Yod Hey Vav Hey, the God dimension. And I was sitting there looking and kind of trying to muck with some graphics, and this came to my. I mean, I knew it was going to be about something about dimensions and letters and this kind of thing, but what exactly to call it? So I made this initial graphic, and I messaged it through quite a few people. Probably, I believe I messaged it to you. And
yeah, you did.
But one of the people that came back,
I see you compromised on the colors. You went with both the bronze colored and the blue.
Well, it's on. I did. And then there were some people who said, "Don't put it on there at all." And I would say, "Why?" And they would say, "Well, because nobody knows what that says." I said, you know, who cares? I mean, look.
And for us English speakers, by the way, when we're looking at this at Yod Hey Vav Hey, it's like, well, wait a minute. The two symbols that are the same are not in the right position. It's because Hebrew goes right to left. Just remember that. I had to stop and think about that for a minute too. But it's wonderful. Let me ask you this, because again, I made mention of the Holy Land video that you did before. You had the opportunity to tour Israel. And a few sites with the well-known rock and roll singer Rick Derringer, who is a convicted believer.
And you know what's okay? So, and I don't mean to cut you off, but Casper, whose book is in there in the other room,
Casper McLeod.
Yeah, they're going to do a show together in New York. Oh, I just had heard about this, and in fact, I will tell you. Look, man, I've got this old broken phone here. Let me see if I can find. Okay, so Ken Monet, who's the guy that is Rick's manager and also drummer, this guy bought the property. His dream is to have, he calls it a Godstock, but you call it whatever you like. He bought the original property for the Woodstock.
Really?
Yes.
The farm.
I think it's like 37 acres, and we were seeing 37 everywhere, but the address for it is
Max
333
Oh, wow.
Gabriel Road in Bethel, New York. I'm not making it up, man. That's true. That's true. So on May 5th, I mean, you can't even make stuff like that.
I know.
So, yeah, and I just happened to think, because there were some books of Casper's, and I said, well, that's odd. I'm here at Skywatch, and you guys carry it. And beautiful. Casper's books are, man, it's awesome. There's nobody that knows more about the shroud, but he's going to be doing a show with Rick Derringer in New York in May or something, and that guy has got a story, just like you and Sharon have. Because I asked you the other day, do you see 111 on your clocks? So I'm working on this video, and there's numbers and stuff everywhere. You'll start looking crazy after a minute. Yeah. But then you realize everybody else is crazy too, because when I talked to Donnie, let me come back to Donnie for a second. So I'm emailing this message through that's got this God dimension on it, and she replied and she said, Trey, we need to talk. And she said, my grandmother was in the 6 Day War. She was in Jerusalem during the 6 Day War, and she died exactly 50 years from that war in the Jubilee year. And she died exactly 50 days after my father, Kim Clement. And I believe that's Kim's mom that she's talking about, her grandmother. She said, but before she died, she called us all in, and she said, I need to tell you something. She said, I saw Kim, and he was in a doorway of light. And he said, you can come on up here. It's okay. I'm already here. And she said, Kim, where are you? And he said, I'm in the God dimension. And I have no idea what that means, but that was so comforting when she told. I mean, it was just, and you really. And I'm planning to go see those ladies here, and I'm going to hang out with Mom. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go up there to. There's a neat lady I'd like to go see in Colorado, and then after that, I want to go up there and see those ladies. They have been. Kim, it was, I don't have enough words of honor to speak for Kim Clement. And did you know, Derek, that so Donnie, the Lord had told her several weeks before, you need to go spend time with your father. She didn't know why. Mm-hmm. And she went to go spend time with him. Now, they found Kim 3 days, but he had 3 strokes, 3. And the last one was the large one. Mm-hmm. He would live long enough to just see Donald Trump become president. And he died just a few weeks after that. They found
him. And of course, he prophesied that was going to happen long before it happened.
All in interesting years. Yeah, look at the years and dates. Everything will either have a 7 or a 14 or it's you begin to just see this whole different picture emerge. Yeah, they found Kim crying. And this was 3 days. 3 days before his 3rd stroke, the last one. And they found him, she said he was just balled up and he was just crying. And they said, Kim, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he wouldn't tell anybody, but he wrote on a note that in 3 days, and he gave the date, he put the date on there, that the Lord had said he would not speak again. That's what that note says. Mm-hmm. And, and I'll tell you that that there's a tape actually of his last den that's up on the internet, and I have watched it. If you haven't watched that and you're listening to the show, those are he didn't give much prophecy. What he mainly did was sing, because mm-hmm. that's what Kim loved to do. He loved to sing to the Lord. Just David loved to sing to the Lord. Mm-hmm. But what prophecy he did give, and it's probably about an hour in. You probably got to get about halfway through that tape. Actually, you know what? That tape is an hour and 11 minutes. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? You get about halfway through there, and he will give a prophecy, and he'll bring you to Kim Clement will take you out with tears. He made his last one a good one. But yeah, man, this is this is more than a cool thing for me. It's Derek, I've had kind of a rough, it's not been a rough couple of years. There was a lot of joy that I had making this that I hadn't had, I enjoyed the Trump thing. Mm-hmm. But there was honestly kind of a lot of stress about that because you don't know, and people are asking, and people are biting their fingernails, and some people are real mad at you, and some people, you know what I'm saying? It's like fending. And this had just a great deal of peace to it to make, and I think people need that.
Yeah,
well,
especially in these times, we're looking at the world around us. We're looking at the I think vitriol is the best word. The acid being thrown back and forth by Democrats and Republicans here in the last 2 years over Donald Trump getting into the White House. It is easy for us, even as Christians, to get all caught up in that and to get our guts twisted into knots over what's going on. Forgetting that God has got all of this in control, that he's seen the end from the beginning. He knows that all of this and knew all of this, and you don't think he's got it in control. Why would that, even cross your mind? And if he's got it in control, then why are we stressing ourselves about it? Why are we so angry? Well, yeah, we can work up a good righteous anger against sin and unrighteousness in the world, but let's look at it this way. A lot of these people, whether they're Jews or Muslims, and I don't mean to cast any aspersions on any particular religion, but Buddhists, Hindus, etc., they are, and this is something that really came to me during the writing of The Great Inception, given that these small g gods, these rebellious fallen angels, are real, and that they have been putting out disinformation, misinformation, lies, half-truths since the garden in order to deceive mankind into falling away from the truth. They don't care what we believe as long as it's not the one thing that's true. So these people are all victims of a massive disinformation campaign, a psyop that goes all the way back to Eden. And so, these people are victims. And yes, the true believers, the violent Islamist groups like the Islamic State will take that and wield the sword against anyone who's not in their cult. But you've also got violent Hindus who are doing this. There are apocalyptic prophecies in Buddhism that will make the Book of Revelation look tame. So, the enemy doesn't care what we believe, and they are more than delighted to have us killing each other while we're doing it. And we as Christians just have to remember that many of the people who are following those religions are just dupes, unwitting dupes of these principalities and powers that have aligned themselves, that have rebelled against their creator. And so it is tragic. It is sad. We can be angry, but let's be angry at the right things here. Let's be angry at these entities that are creating an ocean of blood, a sea of skulls from across human history by luring people into these false religions. They're the ones at whom we should be angry, and I think that's why they're getting desperate. When you think about Paul and the letter that he wrote to the church at Corinth, do you not know that you shall judge angels?
So what did that mean?
There is a day coming when I think, and I would want to defer to an actual scholar like a Dr. Heiser or somebody, or Tom Horn or somebody of that caliber, but I believe that when you read the New Testament, you see that sonship language, that family language that's in there. The prodigal of the parable of the prodigal son is one picture that comes to mind when I think about this and how we are restored to the family and welcome back. But also the parable of the absentee owner of the vineyard, the king who owns this vineyard. Yeah. He's got the tenant farmers who, the managers come to. And the tenants kill him, and finally the king sends his son, and surely they'll listen to my son, and they kill him too, thinking, hey, if we kill him, we'll get to take over this great vineyard, and it'll be all ours. I used to think that was about, the tenant farmers who were rebelling against the authority of the king were us. It's not. It's these small g gods. It's Baal, Molech, Chemosh, Asherah, Astaroth, Astarte, Ishtar, whatever. It's them, and they thought, by killing the son, they would inherit the earth. And Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 2, verses 6 through 8, if they had understood what was going on, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. They didn't understand what Jesus' mission was, and they misunderstood that, and so they sacrificed him, killed him, thinking, yes, okay, now the earth is ours. Well, and this is a great reversal. This is going to go into my next book. Third day, Jesus comes back after being down in the abyss, talking to those entities that are in chains, bound in chains in utter darkness until the day of the judgment. This is only temporary. I'm getting out in 3 days. Reversing a ritual that I'll show from Amorite, Canaanite texts that was a necromancy ritual that they were working, these pagan nations, for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. I think a day is coming when we are restored to God's family, restored to the position Adam and Eve lost when they rebelled in the garden on God's holy mountain, Zion. His mount of assembly, humanity will become part of the divine assembly again, the divine council. And when that happens, and my gosh, Hebrews 2 is so powerful when you think about this, because there's a passage, and I don't have a Bible in front of me, but Hebrews 2, it's around verse 10 or 12, somewhere in there, where he says, "Behold, I and the children you gave me." And then Jesus, the verse says, "Will sing your praise to my brothers." And meaning that when that day comes where we are restored to that position, we're going to be present. I mean, talk about Kim Clement and his wanting to sing praise of God. Imagine Jesus Christ himself singing the praise of God to all of us. We will be there for that.
Yeah, well.
And then these angels who, for whatever reason, God chose, and the first 2 chapters of Hebrews, I recommend everybody read those and read this with this understanding that God created mankind a little lower than the angels, but the angels were created to serve us, to be our helpers and our servants. And there are some who the Bible shows clearly rebelled. And that's why I think when we judge angels, we will be judging those, that class of entity. And there are some who, when the judgment is passed, will be joining the devil and his minions in the lake of fire. So it's it's an incredible thing when you think about that. And I wish I had a Bible in front of me, because I'm not doing it justice now trying to call it up from memory, but those verses, those passages, when you read those with that understanding that is our destiny someday. We are the prodigal son who's going to be welcomed home, and the marriage supper of the Lamb is when he kills the fatted calf and welcomes us. And the older brother who's kind of upset about it, it's kind of like the angels, like, well, what about us? We've been here the whole time serving you faithfully. He's like, hey, yes. And no worries. You're still my son, but they've come home.
Yeah.
Love to come home.
Yeah.
And in Hebrews 2, where it talks about Jesus singing his praise to my brothers when we are back in that mount of assembly as part of the divine council. Wow.
Yeah.
And there's a way you might interpret it, and I don't know if this is correct or not, but it brought me to tears thinking about it once, more than once actually, that it could be that the brothers that Jesus is referring to in Hebrews 2 are the angels of the divine council, and that those he's singing the praises of are the children that he is bringing to the Mount of Assembly. In other words, singing our praises to the angels who remain faithful. Now, I'm not going to swear that that's exactly what that means, but if that is the way of interpreting it, that's even more powerful when you think about it.
Yeah.
It gives me chills.
Those parables of the parables. One of the okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take over the interview.
No. What you said was
these are the kind of conversations we're blessed to have when we get together and just sit down over a cold one or something. We just happen to have the microphones on this time. So
well, that's actually true. That is actually true. You were the prodigal son. This is she doesn't have them anymore. There's but my mom over here. She had what year did you have cancer? Was it 91? It was 91. It was 90.
1990.
Okay. And you had, how big was that cancer? It was a big one.
It was 12 pounds.
It was
a 12-pound tumor.
12 pounds. Yeah. And they gave her a few months to live. They gave her a few months to live, and she, they told her 3 months. She's still here.
Praise God.
A fork to eat. Go ahead. You wouldn't lift a fork to eat it. So she said the doctors told her that she was going to die. She had 3 months to live. She wouldn't be able to lift a fork. They were going to do this chemo stuff. She stopped going to the chemo because she said it didn't work. Well, she said, I don't know what she said, but she covered the house with faith scriptures. And the cancer went away. She is still sitting here. She pulled her money out of Enron too before she was working at Enron, and the Lord told her to take her. She because I remember Dwayne and other people, or whoever, but we got family members that are good, claim to be good with financial stuff. And they, no, you don't believe that.
Yeah. No, I remember very well when that hit, because that hit just before 9/11 and Enron collapsing in 9/11. I was in the steel pipe business, and our business just fell off a cliff.
Mom was
thanks to Enron
shopping while people were jumping off of windows and shooting themselves in the head.
Wow, yeah, that was. But it's interesting because sometimes God will hear those prayers and choose for whatever reason not to respond. My father back in 2005 suddenly in the spring of 2005 began to get sick, and doctors couldn't figure out what was going on, and he was getting dizzy all the time. He was losing his balance. He finally had to start walking with a cane to support himself, and he was growing weaker and dizzier. Couldn't eat because of the dizziness, and doctors never did figure out they didn't figure out what was going on with him until about 2 days before he passed away in August of 2005. And I had the opportunity to spend a couple of weeks with him there in his last days. And Dad was an engineer by training and for his whole life, so very linear thinker. Point A, point B. Closest way to easiest route to solving a problem is a straight line. I went into a sales career. I realized with some people, the easiest way to solve a problem is to kind of go around and circle around from behind. But anyway, Dad was a guy who read, and that's why I dedicated The Day the Earth Stands Still to Dad, because dealing with the UFO phenomenon, he had read Chariots of the Gods and all of that stuff, the ancient alien stuff back in the 70s before it, when it was really hot and Rod Serling was making movies about what, this great idea and all that. But Dad, with his engineer's mind, thought about it and then thought, what are the odds that Christianity would have survived past the end of the first century with the Romans and the Sanhedrin trying to persecute these guys? And would these guys really have died if it was a lie, if Jesus was just an astronaut from another world? And why would he have lied about that if that was the case? Why did he, So Dad said, believing Von Daniken takes more faith than believing the Gospels. And so he rejected all of that stuff. I inherited all those books, which, sadly, I should have burned. Instead, I gave them to some used bookstore, and they're probably corrupting someone else's mind these days. But anyway, even though we prayed, we prayed, as hard as I knew how back in 2005, and yet the Lord chose not to heal Dad.
Did he know the Lord?
He did.
Okay,
he did.
And he made it.
And so there was a piece about that. Having had the opportunity to talk with him about all of that before he passed, and knowing, he said, if I recovered, that's great. If not, I'm ready. I've had a good life and I know where I'm going. So, I didn't cry much when he passed because I knew, and a lot of people were surprised by that. Well, didn't was everything okay between you? He said, yeah, it's just, I know where he is, and, Like Job, he said, I know my Redeemer lives and I will see him on the last day. Of course, Dad got there first. But it was kind of odd when you think what they finally figured out what it was. They finally identified the virus that had taken up residence in his brain, basically caused a lesion in his brain. And it's a virus that 85% of American adults have been exposed to, but in most of us, it stays dormant. It's called the JC virus.
Wow.
Now, that's the initials of the guy who discovered it, but still, it is kind of weird. It normally only gets aggressive in people with full-blown AIDS. And Dad didn't have AIDS. He would not have ever been exposed to AIDS or HIV. So they couldn't figure out what was causing this. And there's no cure because the number of people who die from this particular virus in the course of a year are in the hundreds. There's no money to be made in trying to come up with a cure for it. So, but he knew where he was going, and he knew with his engineer's mind. See, and now let me try to close a circle and bring this back to your work. Again, Dad approached this with a very logical engineer's perspective. He was trained as a draftsman, but he was smarter than I realized when I was a kid, because when you're a kid, your dad is, stupid. And now that I'm an adult, I realize he keeps getting smarter, even though he's been gone for 12 years. But as an engineer, like I said, he had very linear thinking. This is the problem. Let's fix this. Let's solve this. You do this and tie this together, and you weld that there and this, that, and that's how you fix a problem. You are making connections that an engineer probably would not make when it comes to the symbolism, the yod he vav he, and the numerology involved in the Hebrew language and things like that. And so there's a different audience being reached by that. How did your trip to Israel with Rick Derringer inspire or open your eyes to some of the things in the new video?
I'm not sure. But I'm very glad that I went with him there. And I think he was supposed to go. I think it was that the Lord, it was kind of an unusual thing that was put together there. And it would have been very different in Israel had he not been there.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was just kind of like going with a friend, to be honest, Derek. What this thing is that I'm holding, it's just, it's just a walk.
Well, let me ask you this, and I know that to avoid taking up the rest of the afternoon you could be spending with your mom. What do you hope viewers get when out of this when they watch the God Dimension?
I hope, even out off of the thing that's on YouTube, and I'll tell you, let me tell you this real clearly. There's nothing in this disc that the thing that you're going to just learn a bunch of cool stuff. If there were one message in this thing, it would be that Jesus, just like that parable that Derek was talking about, the parable of the prodigal son, that the Lord is just calling us out, all out of the mud pits. He's just calling us out, and a bunch of cool looking. And I'll listen to me on this. There's a lot of cool stuff in the 30-minute thing that's on. If the 30-minute thing doesn't convince you Jesus is real, another hour and a half ain't going to help you. You just begin, whoever you are, to go before the Lord. Doesn't matter where you're at, what you've done. If you say, I'm just in the middle of it and everything's falling apart. You know what's funny about that is that when you're looking at Revelation chapter 2 and 3, where Jesus is talking to those churches, there are 5 of them that he gets on to. And the ones that thought they were doing really good were the ones that were not doing good.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that thought they were doing really, really poorly were actually the ones that were doing, no, you're doing all right. So this is something to uplift you. But more than that, you just ask the Lord. One of the things I learned to do in the course of making this thing was just to say, Lord, even in my stupidness, even in my idiocy, guide me. Protect me from my stupidity because I've got just plethoras of it. Protect me from it. Protect me from myself. Lord Jesus, I ask that your will be done. And I just pray for it. And give me joy. And you're supposed to have joy. Wherever you are sitting here, it's fun actually to watch the news anymore because you're watching bad people get scared. It's fun to watch bad people get scared. It's a lot of fun to do that. You're watching your big old news medias try and cover for them, and they're losing at that. Oh, it's embarrassing when you see a State of the Union address where you've actually got a president in the office, and you've got your medias. Oh, it was horrible. It was just, And
then they poll the viewers, and 70 to 75% come back with a positive response, a favorable response. So it's like, what? Okay, a little bit of a disconnect.
You're in wonderful times, and the Lord is going to, on the other side of this thing, no matter what you're going through, the Lord wants to bless you, and that means far more than, he wants to bless you. And blessing in God's view is joy. You could have joy while the world burns. But you just have joy, whoever you are listening to this. And I'll tell you, it's an honor to sit here with one of the closest for somebody I go out to eat with here and when I get the chance. And it's an honor that he would even take his time to sit here with a weird dude like me that throws the arms and stuff everywhere.
Yeah, it's a joy. Trey, where do people find a copy? If they want to get a copy of this or get several copies and share them around, where would they find the God Dimension?
Well, they're going to, okay, so I'm going to need you to drive to New Jersey, okay? And I'm going to give you a street address for a guy. Now, it's kind of a dark-looking place, but knock on the door. Don't get freaked out. And go over to godinanutshell.com and make sure you subscribe to all of the Skywatch stuff too, and subscribe to my stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of us say something worth listening to.
Well, put links in the show notes, and if you're watching the video at youtube.com/Derek Gilbert, there'll be those notes will be below the video. But if you're watching, it's Spreaker, vftb.net, wherever, you just check the notes, and I'll have links to Trey's website and also Trey's YouTube channel where you should subscribe.
Take what you like and leave the rest. I love you, Derek.
All right, love you, man. Thanks for coming in today.
All right, God bless.
Check the notes wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, whether it's vftb.net, Spreaker.com, or at the YouTube channel. Or you could be listening at Stitcher, too, for that matter. Or watching the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Derek Gilbert. Check the notes, and you'll find links to Trey's website, the God in a Nutshell Project. Also, links to his YouTube channel, which you should subscribe to. And if you're not subscribed already, why haven't you? So do that and check it out. The new DVD, here's if you'll notice now, by the way, if you're watching, you're actually seeing a live body in front of the camera. So this is the tag end where I've actually got the camera on. The God Dimension. It's reflecting the light. Well, this is not a professional video studio. Anyway, the new DVD from trey-smith, The God Dimension. Find it at his website, The God in a Nutshell Project. We've seen clips from it. Looking forward to going home and watching this weekend. We've got a busy year coming up for us at Skywatch TV and for Sharon and me personally. Skywatch TV, we are going on 3 new national networks. Should have called up those national networks so I could give you the exact dates and times, but you'll find all of that at the website, which is skywatchtv.com. Let me bring this up here. I'm kind of vamping as I do this so that we can give you some accurate information. All along, we have been on the Christian Television Network and on Victory Television Network in Arkansas and around Memphis. But as of the first week of February, that is, which this now is, we're adding 3 new national networks for the weekly Skywatch TV broadcast. Angel One, which is Dish Network Channel 262, Dish Network 262, will be on Sundays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 Central. GEB America, which is based out of Tulsa. That's DirecTV Channel 363. Got to get the progressive lenses adjusted. Wrong viewing distance. DirecTV 363, they also stream live to Roku and Apple TV. So if you've got Roku or Apple TV, if you add the GEB America channel to your Roku, you can watch us at 6 p.m. Sundays. That's 6 p.m. Eastern Time, UTC -5, 5 p.m. Central Time. And the Impact Network, which is DirecTV Channel 380, Dish Network Channel 260. And the Impact Network is also available on cable, Comcast cable, Spectrum cable, and they also stream live to Roku and Apple TV. So a bunch of ways to watch the Impact Network. And we will broadcast weekly on Impact at 3:30 p.m. Tuesdays. That's 3:30 Tuesday afternoons, Eastern Time, 2:30 Central, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on the Impact Network. Again, DirecTV 380, Dish Network 260, and check local listings if you've got Comcast, Spectrum, cable. But if you've got Roku or Apple TV, well, just add their app to your Apple TV or Roku account. You can watch us that way as well. Complete listings at skywatchtv.com/channels. Okay? And this coming week, the interview is with Justin Fall and Wes Fall, the newest members of the Skywatch TV team. Sharon and I this year will be traveling quite a bit. We've got 3 conferences I know of off the top of my head. 1, 2, 3, possibly a 4th. So, we'll be traveling a bit. The first one up, of course, is the Hear the Watchman Conference coming to Dallas, March 22nd through the 25th. That's the Hilton DFW Lakes Conference Center. Along with us, Josh and Christina Peck will be there from Skywatch TV. Bill Salas, Rabbi Zev Parat, Pastor Carl Gallups, L.A. Marzulli, who, as I record this on Friday afternoon, February 2nd, big announcement regarding some DNA testing he's had done on anomalous skulls. So by the time the conference comes around, no doubt L.A. will have something very exciting to share. In fact, probably will by the time I finish recording this video, but I don't know what it is just yet. Dr. Michael Lake will be there as well. Casper McLeod, Josh Tolley, Mark Taylor, co-author of the Trump Prophecies. What a lineup. That's the Hear the Watchman Conference in Dallas, and we can save you $20 off your registration. Use the promo code Gilbert20, Gilbert20 at hearthewatchmen.com. If you can't be in Dallas for the conference, you can still watch it slightly time-shifted. What they do is they record each presentation and they upload it to the web as soon as the presentation is over. And that way they avoid any problems with the video stream being interrupted at the hotel and the conference center. It's smart. You get an HD video stream that should be uninterrupted, and we can save you 20% on the cost. It's only $49, and you get access to those videos for 6 months after the conference. It's a great deal, and we can save you 20% off of that by using the promo code Gilbert20. That's Gilbert20. Don't miss our Bible study every week, the Gilbert House Fellowship. You'll find that at gilberthouse.org. That's gilberthouse.org. My new book with Josh Peck, The Day the Earth Stands Still considered a new release at Amazon and still hanging in among the top 3 new releases in the science and religion category, which is really remarkable because the guy holding the number 1 spot, Michael Shermer, the guy who publishes Skeptic Magazine, is much better known than we are. So we are honored and pleased that the book appears to be very well received. The Day the Earth Stands Still. If you got a copy, even if you bought it from Skywatch TV, we would sure appreciate a review at Amazon, because while we're delighted and honored that you would choose to invest in this book, we would like for people not already in the choir to hear about this, because there are a lot of people being deceived into a virtual religion worshiping ET, or at least turning to extraterrestrials, or what they think are extraterrestrials. That's the key point. What they think are extraterrestrials for answers to questions that we have in the Bible. Where'd we come from? Why are we here? And what happens to us when we die? We've got those answers, and yet a lot of people, millions, tens of millions, are turning to ET for those answers. They're being deceived. And this book addresses this and shows from pretty clear evidence, I think, how there is a direct link from the occult realm to the modern ancient astronaut theory, the idea that the gods of the ancient world were nothing more than visitors from other worlds. Well, that is a lie from the pit of you-know-where. Along with that, by the way, if you go to the Skywatch TV store to buy the hard copy, which is what we recommend, you get Josh's new book, Unraveling the Multiverse, which is the remastered version, if you will, of his first 2 books, Cherubim and Chariots and Quantum Creation, plus Dr. Michael Heiser's excellent, highly recommended novels. Let me put these in front of my face, The Facade and The Portent. All of those, plus the 5 DVDs of interviews, plus a bunch of other free stuff, about $300 worth of stuff all together if you bought it separately for under $40. So that's the way to do it. If you want an electronic copy, if you want to read it on your Kindle, Amazon has the Kindle edition. That is officially available now at Amazon, so you can go to Amazon.com to get the Kindle edition of The Day the Earth Stands Still. But if you're going to buy the hard copy, really recommend you go to the Skywatch TV store. The easiest way to find the link is go to the book's website. The official website for the book is officialdisclosure.com, officialdisclosure.com. So we got all of that. We got, what else? Well, I guess that's it for now. We got some other things coming up. Our tour of Israel. If you're still interested, or if you're interested, there's still a few slots available for the Year 70 Tour of Israel with Dr. Michael Heiser, Sharon, and me. May 6th through the 16th, we'll be touring Israel. And then if you take the extension to that tour, a 3-day extension, Jordan as well, which means a tour of Petra. And this is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime thing, because we will be in Jerusalem on the 70th anniversary of Israel's independence and part of that celebration. Once in a lifetime. If you want more information, go to lipkintours.com, Lipkin tours.com, and look for the Year 70 Tour of Israel link. Still just a few slots available for that, but we would love to have you along for that ride. And then following that, still a couple of slots open for the True Legends expedition to Rome and Sardinia. Steve Quayle, Timothy Alberino, Sharon K. Gilbert, Derek P. Gilbert. We'll see the historical sites of Rome and the archaeological sites of Sardinia, which relate to the Amorites, the Canaanites, their worship of the old giants, the giants of old. Yep. And this will all be part of the research that I'm doing for my forthcoming book, which should be out, all things, God willing, by August. I figure if I keep talking about this enough, I will apply enough pressure to myself to make sure that I get it done on time. It's worked twice already, so hopefully it'll work again this time. So if you want information on the True Legends expedition to Rome and Sardinia, GENSIX, gen6.com. Go there also for information about the forthcoming True Legends conference coming to Branson in September. This will be on the transhumanism movement, transhumanism and the hybrid age, the theme of the conference. Sharon will be one of the featured speakers, along with Steve Quayle, Tom Horn, Timothy Alberino, Dr. Hugo de Garis, one of the world's leading researchers into artificial intelligence. Looking forward to meeting him face-to-face. I've interviewed him a couple of times, but look forward to meeting him face-to-face. This is going to be a big deal because transhumanism, like the UFO phenomenon, a new sci-fi religion for the 21st century. And it's based on the same old lie. Ye shall be as gods. So check that out at gen6.com. A View from the Bunker. We appreciate you giving us a review, whether it's at iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, or anywhere else you find us. Give us a thumbs up at YouTube and share the video. If you're watching this at YouTube, share the video around so that people, again, outside the choir might hear some of this stuff that'll shake up their worldview just a little bit. That's our goal. And remember that this is a production of Gilbert House, released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. The opening theme is by Kevin MacLeod. His website, www.incompetech.com. And the announcer is D.C. Good. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is A View from the Bunker.